Hey, what's going on, guys? Dane the Portable Ham. Super excited. I'm going to Salty Walt's forum. Just picked up his book from the ARRL. Super excited. I'm going to see if I can get some shots of that for you guys, and we'll go from there.
Hey guys, I'm overwhelmed that this many people want to come watch me talk about antennas. So thank you for coming to start off with. I hope you guys know who I am. If not, I'm Walt Hudson, or as we all know now, Salty Walt. I just put together a book of antennas. What I like to do, I'll give a little rundown on me first, and then we'll go through the book here. I live right by the sea. This is me in my front yard right now. Across the street, that's the harbor of Norfolk, Virginia. I've got a little true USDX there. I like to get out and operate portable because of salt water. Now, the antenna book here isn't all about antennas next to salt water, but it is heavy on verticals because, as they say, horizontal by land, vertical by sea. It's really what it's all about, and we'll get into that more in a minute there. But to talk about me, I have a little YouTube channel now, Coastal Waves and Wires. Seems to be doing okay. I hope you guys are probably already subscribers, but I like to sketch antennas. It's really what I'm into. I started 1980, so 45 years ago, while I was going to school at night to become an engineer. I was a draftsman, and back then, this is before computer-aided design, and we drew by hand. And I would draw shipbuilding. I would draw structural components and plates and things for them to build ships. And I actually worked as a loftsmith. We were on the floor. We would lay out by hand patterns and stuff, for lofting to build ships. I started as a loftsmith and a draftsman. Well, as we ventured on into the modern age, I still do it, but I do it 3D CAD and use it. You wouldn't know that by me with the computer here a minute ago, but I do actually. I'm a CAD operator per se. But I like doing that. And my job, coming from what I did in engineering, starting as just a rookie loftsman, draftsman, actually worked out as an apprentice and pounded steel, did a little bit of welding or whatever. I got to see that side of shipbuilding, and then complete, university studies, become an engineer, and then I got to see the theoretical guys. In my entire career for 45 years, I've been that guy in the middle, kind of like the field guy that goes to the theory guy, comes down to the guy's building and do it. And I like to do that in antenna building as well, and kind of take what I've done for 45 years in my engineering career and add it to the fun part of my life, which is ham radio. I'll start it off, my 8th birthday, which would have been June 26, 1970, I got one of these radios. Now, I had a rough life as a kid. My second floor bedroom window looked out at the road we lived on, which was called Bayview Boulevard. And across Bayview Boulevard was the beach and the water that was the Chesapeake Bay. It was a hard life, but I discovered real quick then, in 1970 as an 8-year-old, I would sit in my bedroom at night, and we all have done it, I'm sure, listen to AM radio, and even with this little size of a ball, I would tune around. It was just amazing what I could receive. And I can remember back then, I could even pick up, being right on the water and on the bay, Bermuda, just amazing DX with a cheap little radio in my bedroom window. My grandparents were farmers inland, way inland in central North Carolina, and I used to go spend my summers on the farm with them. And I took my little ball there with them, and I was like, the best DX I can get is WSM in Nashville, which is like 300 miles away. It was a different world. It really was. And I get back home, and I'm next to salt water. So I learned at a very, very young age that there was some magic down here with this salt water. And there was something to it with radio. At the time, I was a kid, I didn't know really what it was. Well, fortunately, throughout my life, I've always been next to salt water because I work in shipbuilding. This is just got through building this. I was working for those that knew I was in Rhode Island. This is a car ferry for the state of Maine that we just built. And I was working for a company called Senesco Marine up there. I was on the contract doing that. So, and even while I was at Senesco Marine, I was taking stuff like this, the hard part, and going down to the guy in the on the field and building them, with doing little sketches and things like that. If you watch my videos or if you follow me, a lot of people have said, I've always sketched up an antenna like this, put it up on other forms of social media, as well as some of my videos. People said, well, you should do a book. I'm like, okay, I don't know why you guys would want these, but I'll do it. And then I was so fortunate that the ARRL reached out to me and said, hey, Walt, we would like to publish your book. And I said, let me think about that. Sure, okay, let's go. I love that. So if you were an old salty from when I started the channel, whatever, you probably remember these. And I was up doing, just sketching and doing that. From the sketch I'd build the antenna. And this right here is, that's the Chesapeake Bay, not far from where I live. And I'd go out and operate it, get out and do a video and have some fun. I love QRP. For me, QRP, I know we were talking about it earlier, I heard in the last presentation, but to me, QRP lets me know if that antenna really is doing its job. So I like to do that. I think right here in this this was a Wednesday afternoon on the beach here on the Chesapeake Bay. And I remember with that little cheap 5-watt radio, I worked like 3 different South American stations. This was summer before last when we were coming up the cycle. So I like to do that. And then after I get through with that, I can go somewhere and eat. I'll have seafood. You guys know that. I was another really hard thing that happened to me, like just a terrible thing that happened to me was I got stationed in Kauai, Hawaii. And I was playing radio there. It's actually where the channel started. I was there when it started. This is the shrimp station. This is, like I said, I'll put these types of things in it. And then I like to kind of showcase the area where I'm at. I'm talking about Kauai. When I was there, I was on Barking Sands base, which is where WWVH is at. And so I went right there. I put my little tech sun on, yeah, it stood right next to it. I was like, I was, what they say, milk off the cow, that I was next to the cow there, that antenna, for sure. A lot of this is in the book, that's why I'm showing it to you. It's just kind of me. The book is the antennas, a lot like a video if you watch my my YouTube channel. It's like that fun. And I want to talk about that because this book is fun. We say in the book that if you're into the Mozart perfect, high-end technical antenna, don't buy this book. It's not good for you. This book is just have fun. Let's get a wire in the air and have fun. One of the things I see, especially questions I get on my channel, is I think newer hams coming into the hobby, they get too caught up. There's nothing wrong with learning and understanding the theory, but they get too caught up in it, and they're so worried about loss and what's going on with feed line and everything else that it kind of, like we call it, analysis paralysis. It just stops them. I will tell you this right now. Pretty much 90% of the antennas in my antenna book are major compromises that they require a tuner to get them to work. You know what I mean? But the thing about these antennas are they work, and they work pretty well. You see on my channel, doing it. Start out with some of the simple things. Antenna building is easy. To me it is. It only requires a few simple tools, tape measures, some wire, and a wire cutter. And maybe a roll of tape and a balun or on or something. And that's it. That's all you really need to get going. I like to do it on the cheap. And I say on the cheap. I go to Walmart for $16.96. I buy this. It's 100 foot of 16 gauge speaker wire, copper speaker wire. This gives me 200 feet of wire. It's pretty cool. And with that, when I cut that wire, I have 2. For radials, it's great. I just measure, like, say, 5 meters if I'm making counterpoise wires and clip, and then just spread them apart and do that. So that's one of my things I like to do. Affordable, cheap, and easy, because everyone goes, don't you worry about those wires being in the salt water. Don't you worry about what do you do, corrosion or whatever. And to be honest with you, I probably throw away more wire than anybody. An antenna, I build it. I try to save it in a bag if I'm going to use it again. And then it gets in the bottom of a box that a year and a half later I go, oh, there it is. And so that's how I am with wire. I'm probably not a good steward to the with wire, but for vertical antennas and maybe even for slopers, poles are important. You can go way high end and way low end. I know I was traveling when I first went to Poland. I was buying the little $20 squid poles or crappie poles or whatever, and put them in my bag. And those things, the skinny, the first windstorm would break off or whatever. If you don't have a pole, Callum didn't tell me to do this. I'm not advertising for DX Commander, but the Expedition pole is what I have 2 of them now. The 10-meter Expedition. Just about any antenna in my book can be built with this pole, and it's I love the thing. And if you, what I do love about it is I got a piece of a 3/4 inch PVC pipe that's about 1 meter long. I just extend the pole, screw off the bottom, put the PVC down in the dirt or sand or whatever, and slide it right on, and it's an amazing way to support an antenna. There are other ways as well. For you guys that fish or live by the anywhere where there's a tackle shop, bait and tackle shop, you can get these for about $7.99. They're a surf rod holder or a fishing rod holder. Beach umbrellas, right? Beach umbrella holders are another thing that I like with the smaller poles. I will be honest with you, the DX Commander, I haven't found the beach umbrella holder yet that'll hold my DX Commander pole. It's just a little too stout for it. The openings are. Another thing, and this is not an advertisement for LDG, although I did see LDG has an ad in the book that makes me happy because I have the collection, all but one. LDG made a 49-to-1 that looked like this. It's coveted. I can't find one. I can't even find one used, but I have all the others. I have the 1-to-1 Ballon, the 1-to-1 choke, 4-to-1 Ballon, 4-to-1 unun, 9-to-1 unun, and I think that's it. So. If you're going to start building antennas, feed point is important. You don't have to rush out and buy a LDG. That's what I use. I like them. To me, they're easy. I just tape them on the bottom of the pole, hook the wires up, and go. A lot of people like building their own. That's cool. I know my friend Smoking Ape. He's kind of like the guy for that. He'll tell you how many turns and what you need and all that stuff. He's got a great channel, and I enjoy watching that. But I'm lazy. I just buy them. That's how I do it. Another thing as we get off and we start with vertical antennas is counterpoise wires. There's a lot of talk on this, and a lot of people say, you need this, you need that, they need to be tuned, whatever. I personally have found that for me, being close to salt water, I could probably use any piece of wire I want as long as it's touching the ground that's kind of saturated over to the water. It works great for me. But I did do a little sketch. I was watching them talking about Callum McCormick and Rudy Severns. He did a couple videos where he was quoting him. I went and did some research on Rudy's writing as well. And I put this together. This is in the book. Just kind of a little theoretical gain on the amount of counterpoise wires and what they do for a vertical antenna. All this in the book. I don't want to go down a rabbit hole talking about counterpoise wires because we can debate that all day. I know a lot of people. It's funny on my channel. They always just, well, why don't you try raised radials? I'm thinking, I'm sitting on top of the world's greatest ground plane, salt water. That's great. Maybe I'll do it just to do it. But no, the reason I lay mine down is because my location. Same with quarter-wave vertical is an antenna. If you look back at some of my earlier videos, this used to be this was the holy grail for me for operating because it's easy. It's a resonant antenna. I put together in the book. There are equations. The equations in the book as well, but some people just want to build. In my book, I kind of went for middle of the voice parts of the band and did a little quick reference there for quarter wave verticals. And if you haven't built an antenna before, a vertical antenna, start here. It's easy. It's like I just showed you all the cheap parts. It's a great way to begin building vertical antennas. Then get out and do it. Where was that here? Oh, this is Kitty Hawk, North Carolina. Another thing that happens to me, if you can see how rough the surf is here, is a lesson learned. Yeah, you don't have to have your counterpoise wire in the salt water. I've learned that the hard way because I've had the salt water overtake me, and I'm walking with salt water up to my ankles, saving my stuff there. There are ways where you can get back away from it. Question I get a lot is, well, what is your favorite antenna? The DX Monster, the #1 antenna for you when you're operating with a vertical antenna portable. Vertical end-fed half-wave for me is just, I think, if you're into DX, you just want to go out and do DX, and maybe not your typical POTA activation, but for DXing, I love this antenna. There's some science to it as well. As far as ground plane and quarter, counterpoise wires, whatever, I found that just a short, 5% of a wavelength of an antenna, which is just a little over a meter, right around a meter long, with a wire cut for a half wave of 20 meters. This to me is my probably, I hate to call it my favorite antenna, but this is the antenna. If I woke up one morning and said I wanted to make the best contact I could possibly make, it would be with this antenna. This spot right here in the picture, this is Nags Head, North Carolina. On this particular morning, I went on QRP 10 watts with that antenna, and I think I worked 8 or 9 VK, and I was getting anywhere from 5 to 5.8 signal reports from VK with that antenna. That to me is the antenna, and I talk about that in the book as well. On a variant of that, or basically the same antenna, is a halfway vertical for the 10 meter band. And where we're at right now in the solar cycle, 10 meters is epic, and I think it's going to stay that way when it is open. I know there's other things happening too. Middle of the summer, you've got delayer absorption and things going on, but when 10's open, I love the halfway vertical there as well. This here is me. I was sitting in my Jeep in Little Compton Beach, Rhode Island. So this is the very southeast corner of Rhode Island. I could get out of my Jeep and walk about a quarter of a mile, and I would have been in Massachusetts. So it's the very corner of Rhode Island. That's where I was at with this 10 meter vertical. And just an amazing performer with that. I found with the lower bands, like 49 to 1, everybody knows the classic 49 to 1 end-fed half wave for, 65, 66 feet long for 40 meter band. It gives you 40, 20, 15, and 10. I found that 49 to 1 works with, we all know that, the vertical for 20 meters. But once you start getting into the higher bands, the feed point, it changes somewhat. And I use a 64 to 1. It seems to be the best results for that. And I have, from 10, 12, 15, I built a 15 meter one too. As a matter of fact, here it is here. I found that the 64 to 1 unknown. Also with that, I haven't seen much of an advantage of using the small counterpoise wire with that as well. I know that's the coax that's acting as the counter on that, but if we're getting down to where the half wave is in the antenna and that little bit of coax that that little bit of counterpoise that I use for, say, the 40 and the 20 meter type half wave isn't giving me much of an advantage. One thing I do is it works really well if you want to go out and work the higher bands is I cut one for the 12 meter band and then do a fold over. This is in the book as well. And if you want to go out and experiment, I mean, I know 99% of you guys here can do the math yourself or whatever, but this is in the book and you can see the dimensions I use to just fold it over and make it happen. This antenna right here gets me a lot of crazy questions, or not really, I should say comments, but I like building a vertical dipole for the 10 meter band as well because you can get it up higher off the ground. It's a dipole now. You're not relying on the on the counter for below it. Basically, it is a full half wave antenna for 10. But I like building the 10 meter one. I got a feeling 6 years from now this will be the worst antenna ever. But right now, it's a good time to go out and build it and play around with the vertical dipole for the 10 meter band. This as I started, when you saw me sitting on the seawall there, this is right across the street from where I live at. That is the Norfolk Harbor in this picture. That is the U.S. Navy Hospital, Norfolk, right behind me there. This is where I live. I operate here a lot. It's one of my favorite spots. It really is. I like messing around with different and experimenting with different type of antennas as well. One that I've had a lot of fun with, and now we're getting into really relying on a tuner and a non-resident antenna. It's what we call a 17.5. I call this the little brother of the Ribicoff. If you're familiar with the Ribicoff, we'll get to that next. A 17.5-foot vertical wire with a 4-to-1. I've found that through most of the bands from, say, 20 to 10, right around 4-to-1 gives you almost a match, and you can use an ATU with this one. As far as counterpoise wires, just like I was saying earlier, the science to this is easy. Get something on the ground and make it happen. I usually put 4 or 5, just 5 meter long. I don't really even measure them precisely. Counterpoise wires and put them on the ground and have some fun. This is the 17.5 here. I built it at, this is Oakland Beach, which is in Warwick, Rhode Island. That's looking out at Greenwich Bay, which goes out into Narragansett Bay. But this is a great antenna. I've had some fun with it. And I call it the little brother of the Ribicoff antenna. This is an antenna that, it's funny, Mike Kinnerconnect, I saw him, he's here, N2M8K. He and I were having some adult beverages last night and discussing a 3/8 wave antenna for 20 meters. And Mike brought it up to me and goes, Walt, it's kind of the Ribicoff, and it is close to being a 3/8 threat. The beauty of this is it's also very close when you start going towards the 10 meter band and being a 5/8 wave. So this antenna, although there's loss, it's a compromise and you're using a tuner to tune it, your takeoff angle for DX, it's just amazing. And it's a fun antenna. It was, I don't have this call, but it was actually the brainchild of an Italian amateur and who ended up moving to Africa. And he was in Africa. He was married to a Russian woman who named it the Ribicoff antenna, meaning a fishing antenna for that. So I have a lot of fun with that. I even took this, in this picture here, I'm out on the Kitty Hawk fishing pier in Kitty Hawk, North Carolina. I took it out there at the end of the pier. And I remember I was talking to my friend BK4KA over in Brisbane with this QRP with this antenna on that pier sitting out there over the water. And like I said, I know I'm a saltwater guy, and that's just what I do because unfortunately I have to live by it. Mike and others have built these antennas well inland. Mike lives in Buffalo, New York area, and he's had some fun with that. If you want to see pretty much most of the stuff I do, Mike and I are friends. He's built a lot of these as well. Go check out his channel as well, N2M8K. And he shows that even in Buffalo, New York, he's not talking to Brisbane, Australia with 5 watts, but he's still getting out and having some great time with this antenna as well. Mike and I were also talking last night, and this is another thing, and we were talking about random wire antennas. And then one thing about random wires is they're not random. They're parts and there's lengths that you really need to hit. For verticals, I've found that the 17.5, which kind of is in this class, the Ribicoff, which is 25 foot, is in this class. And 3 more that I've built, and I really think they're just monstrous antennas for DX, are 29 feet, 35 and a half feet, and 41 feet. That's about the only thing you can get on the pole. If you can find a pole.
Hey guys, I got Salty Walt here. That was a little snippet of his conversation he had with all of us about his extraordinary antenna builds. What do you have? What do you got for people that are aspiring to build antennas out there?
Get out and build. Just put a wire in the air. Get out, start cutting wires, and start having fun. Making mistakes, you learn from the mistakes, not from the perfect antennas that are already built. Build your own antenna, make some mistakes, and then perfect it. Keep going and get out there and stay salty.
Yeah, that's some good Elmering advice there, guys. Hey, this is the Portable Ham Man 73 to you guys. Thanks.
73.